shopping, or communicating. The technology we access in our daily lives is advancing rapidly to deliver a flawless experience on mobile. Unfortunately, enterprise technology has not scaled fast enough to match this ease. So why not make life simple, even at work? darwinbox is an HCM platform built for user adoption that is highly appealing, intuitive, and mobile-friendly. With our mobile application, now get done even on the fly. Start your day by sharing how you feel at work. Let there be no one waiting for you to approve their requests till you reach office. Let a single tap clear all your tasks and requests. Get the simplest of your worries sorted with daily clock-ins and leave applications on mobile. Stepping out of office for work? Just mark your attendance by sharing your location. Just scan your bills to claim your expense on mobile. Isn't that as easy as it can be? Job interview or project meeting, feedback is as good as it is quick. With mobile, now share feedback real time. But that's not all. We take it a step further by removing touch and type. Now get it all done by just speaking to a brand new voice bot, Darwin. Hey Darwin, give feedback to Jayant. Do more, be more with darwinbox on mobile. Be it for shopping, commuting, or communicating, the technology we access in our daily lives is advancing rapidly to deliver a flawless experience on mobile. Unfortunately, enterprise technology has not scaled fast enough to match this ease. So why not make life simple, even at work? darwinbox is an HCM platform for user adoption that is highly appealing, intuitive, and mobile-friendly. With our mobile application, now get work done even on the fly. Start your day by sharing how you feel at work. Let there be no one waiting for you to approve their requests till you reach office. Let a single tap clear all your tasks and requests. Get the simplest of your worries sorted with daily clock-ins and leave applications on mobile. Stepping out of office for work? Just mark your attendance by sharing your location. Just scan your bills to claim your expense on mobile. Isn't that as easy as it can be? Job interview or project meeting, feedback is as good as it is quick. With mobile, now share feedback real time. But that's not all. We take it a step further by removing touch and type. Now get it all done by just speaking to a brand new voice bot, Darwin. Hey Darwin, Give feedback to Jayant. Do more, be more with darwinbox on mobile.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you for attending today's free webinar entitled From Remote to Hybrid, How to Build an Effective Talent Management Strategy. So I hope that wherever you are attending this webinar that you are safe and healthy. Maybe a little bit of sore throat, itchy throat, but I hope that you're all fine. I am truly excited to begin my year with this first webinar as we are about to learn best practices from a panel of experts. And I'm sure we can all relate from this topic aside from being people managers. We also know that with a shift in the workplace dynamics, we can see that employers are taking the necessary steps to make the work and the workplace more accessible to the employees. While we shift to the remote and now the hybrid way of working, people leaders are having to reimagine the best way to acquire, manage, and retain talent. In this session, we shall discuss how organizations are coping with these challenges and navigating this uncharted landscape with the help of technology. My name is Gemma. I am the HR director for FTG International Corp, and I will be your host and Q&A moderator for today's session. This free webinar is jointly hosted by the People Management Association of the Philippines and darwinbox. Before we officially begin our session, there are just a few reminders that we'd like you to observe during this afternoon's discussions. For an uninterrupted webinar experience, make sure to have a stable internet connection. For an enhanced viewing experience, please set your Zoom window to full screen view on your laptop or tablet. This session will also be recorded. For better sound reception, use a headphone or an earphone. In case you have questions, you may send them to us using the Q&A button, and we will try to answer them during our live Q&A later. At this point, allow me to introduce to you to our moderator and panelists for today. And let's start with our moderator for today. He is a leader passionate about people, pipeline, process, and performance, who comes with 20 plus years of extensive cross-border management experience across the APAC region. He's an ex regional VP at Salesforce for the Marketing Cloud business and ex regional director for Oracle's application business, and later on customer experience (CX) business. Throughout his career, he has handled roles of varying complexity and difficulty at MNCs, including Citrix. Additionally, he takes pride in working with different organizations, from startups to large enterprises. His belief that technology is the best medium for change and HR tech should not be hard to use, particularly in a work from anywhere world, is what drives him to enable HR transformation. At darwinbox, he will spearhead customer success across the company's base of HRMS users, growth, and expansion across APJ, and culture creation for attracting the best talent and partners. We have the great pleasure of having Juancha Jerusalem, Vice President and Head of APJ Expansion at darwinbox, to be our moderator this afternoon.
Thank you,
Good
Gemma. It's great
afternoon,
to be
Juancha.
here. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
As for our panelists, of course, we have only the best to share their experience and wisdom about our topic today. And let's start with our first one. She is a seasoned HR professional with a career spanning 20 years. She is the director of marketing for Oracle's application business and leader on customer experience, the number one sardines brand in the country. Previously, she was COO of a BPO company based in North Carolina and was senior project manager for defense contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan. She holds a bachelor's degree in public administration, diploma in industrial relations, and master's in business administration from UP Diliman. Wow. She also finished her coursework on women in development from UQ in Brisbane, Australia. She is, get this, a certified human resource professional, certified management consultant, and a professional member of of the Society of Human Resource Management based in Alexandria, Virginia. Needless to say, she is passionate about human resources. She views HR as a work of heart, It is an opportunity to help others be the best version of themselves by using one's ability to intervene, coach, and mentor. It's a privilege to introduce to you Shao Villalon. Hi, Shao.
Hello, everyone. Good
Okay,
afternoon.
good afternoon. Coming also from the Society of Human Resource Management as a senior certified professional. Our next panelist leads the people management teams towards fulfillment of their vision of being the catalyst of the long term growth and stability of the organization. Additionally, he has 18 years of experience in the industry, starting in teleperformance in Salt Lake City, Utah, before moving to Teleperformance Philippines in 2004 to support the country's sunrise PPO industry. In 2010, our panelist launched his senior leadership career initially as Director of Integration for Asia Pacific, then as Vice President for Human Capital Resource Management in 2011. In 2015, he was appointed Senior Vice President for Human Capital Resource Management, where he led the drive towards a diverse and inclusive culture that was recognized and certified as a great place to work for the past 3 years in a row. That's a wow. Another passionate leader who works to drive performance at all levels of the organization by focusing on execution and teamwork. He is committed to maintaining a growth mindset and a people centric leadership style, which helps take the team and the organization towards sustainable growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky to have with us today Jeffrey Johnson, Senior Vice President for Human Capital Resource Management of Teleperformance Philippines. Hi, Jeff.
Thanks, Gemini, for that introduction, and nice to see everyone here today, and really looking forward to our conversation.
All right, and you know what they say, save the best for last. Our last panelist for today is currently the Division Vice President of United Laboratories, Inc., with various concurrent HR leadership roles in its affiliate companies. Prior to joining Unilab, she is a Regional Human Resource Director for Asia Pacific of Johnson & Johnson Philippines, Inc., and was President and Managing Director of Bole Associates, a leading executive firm in Asia. Additionally, she is an experienced regional human resource professional with demonstrated history of relevant work experience in the consumer, pharmaceutical, healthcare, and shared services industry. Skilled in organization design development, talent management, executive coaching, strategic planning and organization capability building, talent attraction and retention, and employee engagement, the whole package, everyone. To complete our panel of experts, we have Miss Nanette Aguas. Good afternoon, Miss Nanette.
Thank you, Jamai. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Nice to be part of this panel discussion. Thank you.
Let's all welcome them with a virtual round of applause, everyone. And over to you, Wancho.
Thank you, Gemai. So again, it's really great to be here to be leading this esteemed panelist. So again, my name is Wancho. I'm from darwinbox. And give me one sec. Okay, so I really just wanted to make a quick introduction about darwinbox. For those who don't know, we're currently the fastest growing HR tech company across APAC. We've now grown into 12 offices globally, primarily focusing in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Middle East and North Africa. We're currently backed by some of the biggest global investors like Salesforce Ventures, Sequoia, Lightspeed. They're also behind some of the fast rising companies and now really renowned tech companies like Microsoft, like Salesforce, like WhatsApp and LinkedIn before. And I think everyone in Asia should be proud that there's now an Asian origin in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. We have become the youngest and fastest to have made it to this elite list. And again, I take it with a lot of pride to be representing an HR tech company that hails from the East, where we belong. So another accolade is we've been named #1 by Gartner Peer Insights, beating some of the larger tech companies that you could see in the list here. So 2021 was a great year for us, and hopefully we can extend that to 2022, just like for everyone. In Southeast Asia, you could see some renowned brands here, particularly in the Philippines, like JG Summit, the conglomerate behind companies like Robinsons Bank, like Cebu Pacific, And you've got companies here like SK Global, who will not know Shakey's the largest pizza brand in the Philippines, and also growing fast in the US. There's also Nutriation, Del Bros, and a few other brands here like Indorama and Mitra de Percasa in Indonesia, and Zalora and EM Services and SBS Transit in Singapore, and across the region. And these logos that you see, they form part of the 650 plus enterprises that are now using darwinbox as their HR tech platform. When I started 7 months ago, there were only about barely 900,000 employees using the platform. Now it's grown to more than 1.5 million. Used to be 60 plus countries mid of last year, and it's now grown to 90 plus countries. I really want to anchor the discussion about hybrid workforce and how it's impacting our talent dynamics. And, I think 2 years ago, none of us were used to working from home, and suddenly we gustuhan na po natin yung pag-work from home. And it's good to know that 7 out of 10 workers apparently would want some flexible working arrangements, work options to continue. Paradoxically, despite people working from home or wanting to work from home, still there's a big part of us. I'm one of them. 65% are still craving for more in-person time with their teams. I'm a very social person, and I'm still like that personal contact, which leads us to a hybrid arrangement. From a talent landscape standpoint, if you would look at LinkedIn currently, apparently over the last year, there's been a spike of 5 times in terms of job postings for remote work. I'm not sure if you've heard about the great phenomenon, the great resignation, wherein 4 out of 10 global workforce is likely to consider leaving their current employer, which has become a very big problem for similar companies like darwinbox and also some larger companies. And again, 46% apparently of this workforce are planning to make a major pivot or career transition. So some would call it the great resignation. I personally call it maybe the great reawakening. Some use cases here of some of the companies across Southeast Asia that have used us to drive high performance and productivity. There's STP, which is one of the larger telco companies in Indonesia. They've been leveraging our continuous feedback. Within 3 months of launching, 20,000 feedbacks have been exchanged, and the CEO has been really happy about how transparency has evolved in this company. Fave, it's a fintech company, one of the great unicorns from Singapore. It's a rewards and recognitions company, and within 2 weeks, they have generated 3,000 recognitions across the R&R platform at darwinbox. And last but not the least, there's Quick Heal, which is another tech company that focuses on security. With their OKRs, they were able to have very high adoption rates where employees were really talking about metrics and really aligning their goals to that of their company. With that, I'd say thank you and stop sharing so that we can start the discussion. So let me just prepare some of my questions. I want to start with you, Jeffrey, if that's okay. So with the current changes in the business landscape, as you can imagine, now there's a threat of Omicron, from remote to hybrid, and now some countries going back to a full lockdown. Hopefully in the Philippines it won't. How is this ever changing changes in the business landscape impacting your talent management approach, Jeffrey?
Well, I think, Juancho, you talked on it earlier in the survey that you showed. I mean, employees are looking for a different employment experience today. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I think us HR professionals, along with business leaders all over, we're thinking, okay, some of these changes may be temporary and then things will go back to normal. We've heard that so often. And it's pretty much sinking in today that with Omicron, and I'm sure there will be, unfortunately, another variant, and we'll be dealing with many of the aspects of this pandemic well into the future, that talent is changing, and we better be changing too. So I think to your point earlier, tools like services that you're offering and many others as well are absolutely critical to making sure that we're in the pocket of employees, so employees can build a relationship through technology in the same way that they do in their personal lives. And I think most employers, if we're honest, are far behind on really responding to the employees' needs with these new situations today. And so to answer your question, I think if we have not taken a look at every single talent management strategy and really taken a look to start fresh, then we're probably doing the wrong thing, because some people have still been implementing things that they used to do. And that's just not going to work in today's world. We have to start fresh. We really have to take a look at what employees really need today. And while I think everybody probably understands the talent landscape has changed, we need to realize it's probably changed pretty permanently. It's not a temporary change.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Jeffrey. And I like what you said about starting fresh, right? I think everyone has been, I think in the first year of the pandemic, everyone was kind of stuck with kind of the, similar ways to manage a company that's pre-pandemic. When you say, I'm pretty sure, I think we have over about 500 participants now in this webinar. I'd like to find out, when you say fresh start, is there maybe anything specific that you might be able to share to? I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of BPOs out there as well
Sure.
that have joined us. So if you could share some insights on what you mean by starting fresh, that would be really good.
Sure. Well, I think one of the number one things and one of the challenges I made to my team was always be thinking digital first.
Okay.
Many of our organizations we're very used to handling services in person, like recruitment. I think pre-pandemic, most of us probably would have met any candidate that we hired.
Yeah, that's true.
And today we have people that we're meeting, interviewing, assessing, and hiring, and even working without ever physically meeting that person. Yeah. And so that, when I say start fresh, I mean, you have to take a look at every single step of the hiring process and redo the entire process. You can't be trying to insert old ways of doing things into a brand new way of approaching talent. So recruitment is just one example. I mean, you could apply that same philosophy to every single component of how we interact with employees. So digital first, I think, is a really important approach. And then meeting the employee where they're at today. So many of the employees today, they expect that flexibility. And let's face it, the Philippine labor market wasn't considered very flexible pre-pandemic. And so now we have to be thinking, how can we truly meet the talent where they're at? We have working mothers, for example, or disrupted OFWs, or people that are just need more flexibility in their work approach. And I think all of us HR professionals are, in fairness to us as a profession, we're working to try to address that. And we just need to step it up even more and continue to really revolutionize the way that we handle talent.
I really like that digital first thinking, Jeffrey. I for one, and part of the Great Resignation, I did move to a startup 7 months ago with Darwinbox, and funny enough, it resonated with you said. I've actually never met my boss in person. All our interviews were through phone or obviously through Zoom. So, but yeah, it's a great point. So I'd love to get some insights from you, Mr. Net, about some new. So what are the impacts to your talent management approach? I think Jeffrey has shared a good side on the a digital first thinking. So from Unilab, from your side, I'd love to know more about your insights.
Right. I like what Jeff said about fresh start, because nothing has been business as usual for almost 2 years. Right? Nothing. I mean, that's a reality. Everything has shifted and then shifted again. As we're gaining foothold, right? Then there's another disruption. It hits us, and that's why, as a result of this change, the way that I'm seeing it is there's that balance of power in an organization has shifted. When I say balance of power, it's like, it used to be a very, let's say, example, when you do your talent management, it used to be very a high level talent management, right? I want to be who will say in my succession to be this. We're not losing sight on that. But what I'm trying to say is we now look at or toward looking at people as a whole in the organization, because we want to retain our people. And today we are really forced to refocus as well from a very inward, in a way we look at talents as looking at outward as well, because there are a lot of changes happening, and the way we do business is different now. I mean, digital is driving a lot, e-com is driving a lot of let's say, these changes in the way we do business. That's why there's also that opportunity for us to upskill our people, looking at what are those digital skills that is needed for us to really be able to sort of like address the challenges of the business. At the same time, how are we able also to build our talents? Yeah, these are my thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you, Nate. That's a great insight. I think before the pandemic, I can't believe we're still talking about the pandemic 2 years into it. So I do believe that, when you say talent management, you kind of look into sino ba yung promotable, sino yung mga top percentile in the company. Now, actually, that's a great point. You have a very holistic view on the because it's very painful to lose employees, right? So that's a very, very great insight. Shao, any thoughts from you about the question in terms of business landscape impacting your talent management approach in Mega Global?
Hi, Juancho. Hi, everyone. I guess it's quite unique because ours is FMCG and it's manufacturing. Aside from the fact that we're geographically challenged, because 80% of our operations is in Zamboanga. So it's really grassroots level. And the way to approach the various types of employees within our organization has also been impacted by Omicron, by COVID. So I guess what Mega did was to ensure that, number one, we really had a wellness system in place. We had to make sure that our employees felt that they were taken care of. That's number one in the priorities for HR, in making sure that the approach to COVID was holistic as well. Now, the other thing is, yes, you have a COVID policy encompassing everybody. Just this morning, I was looking at our numbers. There's X number of positives in our head office. We had to make sure, that everybody was working from home, stuff like that. But I cannot do that in a manufacturing setting where we have 2 million cans produced in a day. I can have production workers work from home, right? So that's a different there's a different type of approach for things like that. How do you maintain social distancing in a plant which has about 2,000 people sardines on a daily basis, right? When your conveyors have already been set up in a certain way where people are only 0.5 meters apart, for example, and that's not even an IATF. That's not included in the IATF guidelines. So making sure that we have a tailor-fit policy on wellness and health was number one for us. The budget has changed. When you do talent management, there's a lot of budget involved. When years ago, we didn't really had a lot of budget for alcohols. Now, the number one priority list for admin was to make sure we had alcohols in all of our business units, was to make sure that everybody had face masks. And these are not just the ordinary face masks, because as I said, we're in a manufacturing setting and we're quite strict about health and sanitation inside the plant. So these things have really impacted the Mega in a way.
Okay, thank you. Great inputs, and it's hopefully our participants are appreciating the different experiences of these companies, right? Because Teleperformance completely different from Unilab, as it is different from a manufacturing setup like Mega Global. So Shao, I wanted to ask you this, since I already have you, with the threat of the third wave coming, and it's really unfortunate. Although I think everyone is aware, there's some good signs that Omicron is not really as deadly as the Delta virus. I've heard a few sharings stating that this could be the the great vaccine. Hopefully, it would proceed to an endemic. Countries like Australia and Norway are now considering Omicron. Like what I've said, parang sipon lang siya. So I wanted to ask you specifically, Shao, how are you enabling these frequent pivots and aligning talent management strategy to meet the current demands of the company, right?
Coming off from what Jeffrey has said, a very strong digital foundation is absolutely necessary. I was in Zamboanga during the onslaught of Odette. And I don't know if everybody heard the news that Zamboanga was out of connection for a day. And you could just imagine the panic it created within the organization, because we had flights coming in for officers coming in Zamboanga, only to find out that, you know, the flight was actually canceled. The drivers were already waiting at the airport. So it was chaotic in a sense. So a very strong digital foundation was absolutely necessary. In this case, however, we couldn't do anything because it was an electronic blackout in Zamboanga, and then we realized how dependent we were really on technology running things. You know, the whole gamut of operations of Mega run through during this pandemic, run through a very simple app called Telegram. Okay, so aside from that, we had to look into our policies as well, because we now use electronic platforms. We had to ensure that everybody was engaged in these electronic platforms. So in the COC, I don't know if you guys did this also, the response time was included in the COC. Okay, so we had to be strict about, okay, if we send you a message, for example, in Telegram, you have to respond within an hour or in 30 minutes. Okay, so there are things like that we had to adjust. And this is evolving on a daily basis based on what COVID is throwing at us. Yeah. Okay, another thing that actually had a very big impact on us is how to measure efficiency and productivity using a digital platform. Okay, so I've had meetings with darwinbox about this. Sasank, I think, is here. Okay, because that's very important for us. How do you measure what is the KPI, for example, of a person working from home? How do we know that you know, this person is as engaged at home versus when this person is in the office? Because human psyche dictates that if you're home and you're wearing a pajama and just, you know, having a good top, so that's the frame that's seen on Zoom, has actually an effect on how you approach, you know, your work during the day. Especially if you have a lot of distractions at home. If you're a working mom and you have like toddlers around you, if it's already lunchtime, I'm here at home, I have a 16-year-old listening to my interviews during, you know, at Zoom, and you know, things like that. So we have to be really flexible and adaptable to whatever it is that, you know, COVID throws our way. Last thing for me is data analytics. Very, very important for us. The numbers are changing every day for us, okay? So the moment that productivity and efficiency ratio goes down, it affects a lot of our performance numbers. So ICT was tasked really to do a dashboard. This is the first thing that our executive committee sees in the morning. I'm sure everybody does this as well. What are the numbers? As basic as how many cans are we producing already? What is the catch for this particular vessel? We have 83 vessels out at sea. So what is the number of steamers that are working as specific as can be? So a very basic, a very strong digital platform, as Jeffrey has mentioned, okay, is very, very absolutely necessary to bring you your numbers, and then you have an informed choice for your decision makers, okay, to look at.
Awesome. No, thank you, Shao. Again, great sharings. I think what personally resonated to me was the importance of data, particularly from an employee standpoint. I come from I worked for Salesforce from a customer, from a CRM related background. And you know, I think maybe 3 years ago, I think data driven analytics was more relevant from a customer standpoint. You know, customer of banks, customer of telco companies, of FMCG companies. But here comes the pandemic, when majority of the employees are working from home, absolutely critical data analytics has become very, very relevant from an HR standpoint. So again, that's a great point. Jeffrey, I want to go back to you. And I wanted to rehash the question in terms of teleperformance, being able to adjust and pivot to what Shao said, what COVID throws at you. How are you enabling those pivots in aligning your talent management strategy to meet teleperformance's current needs?
Well, I think it's really important that we stay connected to the current sentiment of our employees. And let's face it, I think around middle of December, towards the end of December, we were seeing cases down, in the country down to 200, a few hundred cases for teleperformance. We have 57,000 employees in the Philippines alone. But we didn't have any cases reported to us for weeks. And that's unusual, since the start of the pandemic. We had unfortunately had some of our employees impacted by COVID, of course. And then we went weeks and weeks with no cases. And I think everybody, and if we're being honest with ourselves on this call, I think everybody was so excited about what they saw as maybe returning to some normal. I mean, some of us got to see family, some of us got to visit our sites and see our teams, maybe a little bit of a Christmas get together, if not maybe a huge party, at least we got some Christmas get togethers and things like that. And then suddenly it felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath us. And let's face it, that is not easy for human emotion to adjust to. Again, we've been through this once, then we went through it twice. Now we're on the third time and maybe on the fourth time. I mean, we have to stay really close to how people are feeling. And I can tell you, when we connect to both ourselves and our teams, and then to our broader society and community, this is having a long-term emotional impact on people. And we have to be aware that we have to be flexible. We have to be understanding and have empathy for the situation that we're in today. Some policies and things that we did in the past maybe made sense back then, and maybe we need to really relook at it today. Shao was mentioning a really great example. If you're working at home and you have family at home, you have maybe elderly or young people with you, then maybe our policies have to adapt to that and think, okay, so what's our policy on flexible during the day? In the past, we maybe would have thought could be completely inappropriate for you to stop and take an hour break in the middle of your work. But maybe today, if the type of job you're doing allows for that, then maybe we as as organizations need to be more flexible to that, right? And our policies need to keep up with that. And so we quickly implemented a more flexible approach to our policy management. Keeping the organization together is important with standards, but it's also really important that we don't burn our employees out, right? Yeah. And let's face it, everybody's been through so much. And this most recent wave, even though it's lucky that people seems to be less severe and more mild in nature, it still has an emotional impact, and we still see people getting hospitalized. So I think that would be my take on it, Wancho, would be we have to make sure that we're connected to what's happening right now. And let's face it, that's sometimes hard with talent management, because in the past, talent management, you would design a plan sometimes years in advance. Mm-hmm. With tools and with strategies and activities and things. And now we're having to adapt talent management sometimes every day. And so be very responsive to what's happening right now. So this is something really important teleperformance is part of a global group where we're in 83 countries. And a lot of countries we're talking about return to work. I think you mentioned it as well, Wancho. And I think that's a great example. You can't have a policy of return to work when you have 38,000 cases, and offices are being swamped by an infectious disease, right? So just be flexible and have a lot of empathy and understanding.
Yeah, no, thank you, Shep. I like what you said about empathy, being flexible. So no, thanks for the sharing. I'm really learning quite a lot. Any inputs from you, Mr. Net, about pivoting and being flexible and how Unilab aligns your talent management strategy so that it continues to meet your current needs.
Okay. Much of before I respond to that, let me just clarify, because I'm
Sure.
part of UOS in Sciences as well as the
Oh yeah, okay,
Unilab
sorry. Yeah, okay.
International. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
okay. Because I know, but we're part of the United Laboratories group. But allow me just to share, to share what sort of like the engagement discussion that I had also with the leadership team, of the division. So as the business or the company has been facing the rapid change, because we're seeing, because our products are delivered to the market, right? There are a lot of changes on how we're bringing our products to the market. That's why what we needed to do then was really to examine the steps on how our organization must take, what we should be taking to transform our organization and looking at our workforce for future performance growth. So there was that focus on doing a strategic workforce planning. It's an opportunity, given the situation, we've looked at that, which really provided us with a greater clarity of what our future needs. Example, supply chain has changed. Supply chain is done differently now, right? With the e-com, the digital, and so forth. So with the nature of and structure of work in flux, what we've sort of like really agreed is to stop thinking, let's say, of work in terms of jobs. Sometimes when you do strategic workforce planning, you sort of like, oh, job, this is the job cluster, this, right? But what we've thought of starting to really put focus is in terms of capabilities. As we now forecast the needs, the future needs of the organization, we need to clearly identify the skills and even the mindsets that we need to execute our strategy. Then once we're able to do this, then we can now put focus on our strategy as well as our sort of like actions on how do we acquire talents with those skills, right? Even the mindsets at the same time through recruitment, or it could also be the reskilling and upskilling of our current employees. It's both, let's say, a strategy on how we attract talents, at the same time on how we're going to retain talents based on how we could further develop the capabilities of the organization.
Okay. No, thank you, Ms. Annette. I think to me personally, the unifying theme so far of our discussion is really focusing on the most important. I'm not sure if we should call people as a resource, but maybe the most important asset in any given company, right? It's really focusing on the people. We talk about data analytics, empathy, but yeah, it's really good. I think obviously no one likes to be in a current state of a pandemic for it's been 2 years, but I think if there's any positive twist to it, I think companies have become more cognizant of the importance of really protecting their talent. And when you say talent nowadays, it's not just the top 5 or 10% of your employee base, right? It's 100%. So no, that's great. So thank you, Ms. Lynette, for that sharing. I'd like to again maybe go back to Shao. Shao, from in Mega Global, I wanted to just understand what you think should be some of the focus areas to tap into for managing and retaining talent, right? We've heard about the great resignation, a lot of people thinking or changing roles or even changing their careers, right? So I'd like to understand more from your perspective, what would be Mega Global's focus areas into managing and retaining your talent?
Well, January is always a very stressful month in Mega because after everybody gets, I don't know if this goes the same with other companies, but after people get the 13-month pay, they submit their resignation, and then after January 15th, they're gone. So yeah, we've because we have data on these things, we try to prepare and make sure that we have enough manpower pooling to replace those that have submitted their resignations. But in the perspective of the workforce being affected by COVID, again, it's really very dynamic and very volatile at the moment with the onset of Omicron. we made sure that we established effective engagement activities to promote employee performance. One of this is to consider remote performance, monitoring and rewards, as I've mentioned earlier. Another thing is to promote virtual engagement activities. It's Zoom meetings, even on a daily basis, is still very different when you meet your colleague along the, in the hallway and ask, Mare, kumusta ka na? Kumusta na yung pamangkin ko? Kumusta na yung, and stuff like that. That physical connection still shares a certain sincerity between and among employees that is not found actually in a Zoom meeting, no matter how hard we try to be engaged as we want to. Not to exacerbate this, we have activities like check-ins, for example, and Friday kamustahans or Monday huddles, fitness sessions online. Okay, we also made sure that we had spiritual development trainings that are done online in coordination with churches, because we cater to multi-sectoral religious organizations. We also made sure that we revise employee-related policies to adapt to the changing environment. The work from home arrangement, for example, is a very tangible example of the policies being revised to make sure that they adapt to the changing times. The challenge here, however, is to ensure that everybody has integrity doing all of these things when we implement the policy. I guess that's the one thing that we had to tell our employees. One of the core values of Mega is malasakit. And we had to pound on the head of we had to make sure that this was cascaded to everyone. There is no better time for Mega employees to show malasakit than this time. Malasakit not just towards your co-employees, but malasakit towards everything that is entrusted to you, from the smallest crew to the biggest machine. Now that we're on work from home arrangement and we're not as connected, how do we show malasakit now? By being by practicing integrity. Okay, by doing the right thing even without supervision. In that way, we practice honesty among our employees. Now, when there's something wrong, it's automatic for our employees to just report it on Telegram and make sure that the head also attends to it on a timely manner. So the value formation and all of these things vis-a-vis the revision of our policies is one of the things that we would like to push in Mega as well, because at the end of the day, Mega is blessed not to have been impacted as adversely like other business models. You probably see our cans of sardines in white plastic bags during the Ayuda season. It has actually developed a very steep incline in the demand for our products, and that's good for us, right? But we can't do this without human resources, and human resource will always be the most important resource for us. So in the same way that we ask our employees to have malasakit for the company has to give malasakit in return. So it's very important for employees to feel, not just to know, that they are taken care of at a very critical time like this. Quid pro quo, right? If you want to do it that way, you scratch your back, I'll scratch yours. But in a more caring, maternal, malasakit way, so that when Mega goes through and waves through this pandemic, it makes sure that nobody's left behind and all of our employees are included, in our policy revisions. And last one that I'd like to emphasize that Mega has been successful with making sure that we retain talents is to really understand what it is that they need. During the Christmas party, we realized that most of our employees would actually want a food ration rather than a gift certificate, for example. Why? Because it's basic need. Okay, so I'm talking about people in Zamboanga, for example, right? In Zamboanga, if you're locked down, you're locked down. You really can't go out of your barangay or your compound. So there's really no way for you to have access to basic necessities, even if even if you wanted to. So how do we respond to that? As detailed as we go there, we give the food ration, we make sure on what it is that they need. We give them 2 kilograms of fish or whatever it is the family needs. So in that sense, we make sure that natutugunan kung ano yung pangangailangan. That's the need. That's as basic as it gets. You give them money, what do they do with money if they can't go out and buy their basic necessities anyway? So you just give it to them. So another thing is the internet allowance. As basic as an internet allowance. Before, it's not part of our benefit. Now we had to redo and revise recruitment job offers to include internet allowances, because it's what people look for nowadays. If you're going to require me to work from home, you have to make sure that, you know, I have allowance enough to sustain an internet speed that will, you know, cater to your demands. I can't do a whole Excel sheet and G Drive and whatever if I'm only using 1 Mbps at home, right? So all of these things, we had to make sure that, you know, we focused really. So if you look at the things that I discussed, it's as detailed as it can get, because policies are only good for, you know, for discussions on top leaders. And let's face it, people will not be able to appreciate policy change if they don't feel it at their level. So we had to make sure we had to zero in on what it is that they really need.
No, that's great. I think, Shao, you know, that's great input. I think personally, you know, the whole malasakit thing, the integrity piece, there's only so much you can do in checking the productivity of an employee when they're working remotely, right? But I guess when there's a company like Mega who gives a lot of malasakit, like really shows integrity, giving importance to what they really need, then that's a way for employees to you know, make what's the right, to reciprocate such a good deed, right? Which, you know, I guess makes your employees stick to your company. So that's great. No, thanks for sharing that. Any thoughts here, Miss Nanette, in terms of you know, focus areas in skin sciences that you are doing to manage and retain talent?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Aside from, I would say, the understanding the needs of the employees during this challenging times, and also balancing it with the business needs, right? And I could speak also for even our international operations, you know, because it's basic needs of the people, right? But an area, you know, for the organization, and we've never lose focus, is really still having that career, I would say, plans for our employees. You know, there's still that conversation that is happening with them, you know, because we do our individual development plan. You know, there's a 2-year cycle, you know, even though we are in this pandemic, even we're working remotely, or there's always that opportunity that the manager and the employee would talk about, okay, how are you progressing based on our plans and so forth, right? So we started really building more internal mobility by investing in sort of like specialized training or support, you know, for us to be able to carry on with what our plan, with our career conversation plans or career planning for our employees and managers. Coaching continued to be a program that we offered, as well as, you know, some development programs. And at the same time, continue to improve our employees' hard skills as well as their soft skills. I think at this time, the soft skills is very important. And included in that would be the organizational awareness, letting them really imbibe, you know, embrace the visions of the company, the aspirations, why are we here? And they have to be connected to the core of the organization. They need to understand, but at the same time, what is their role in that vision of the organization? This will really help our employees to be ready, you know, to take on the job of tomorrow or to take on a position in our organization. And it could even address, you know, as we're able to retain our talents, right? It also addresses the business continuity, you know, because it's not just about the resignation that's happening now, you know, when someone gets sick or someone have to do a mental, you know, rest or so, right? Because we have the cases like the mental challenge because of I would say the stress that is being brought by this pandemic. We've been mindful of our employees and we've offered services. You know, those one-on-one counseling, it's a confidential, they could call a professional, you know, organization to for help. And seeing this opportunity, to still continue taking care, of our and I know there are some, employee needs that we want this. And we always say, look, we discuss it. We have actually established our fun in the work even prior to pandemic, but now they're more, I would say, more focused, on what are really the needs, as well as we have employee welfare circle. These are all like look after the welfare needs of our employees during this pandemic. And of course, HR as the sort of like the sponsor for these two groups, but it's the employees group or team that we have institutionalized while giving all of the support for employees.
No, that's great. I think, yeah, Ms. Nanette, the whole focus on getting you upskilled, what's the next phase in your career? That's really something very important, particularly for maybe the younger generation who are getting more ambitious, right? So no, that's a great point. Definitely something that I've learned from. So how about you, Jeffrey? From Teleperformance, are there any focus areas that you're doing to continue in to manage and retain talent?
Well, I think Shao and Nanette talked about some really amazing points there. So I would say the only thing I had to add was both of our other panelists here talked about understanding employee needs. I think it's super important that we become almost obsessional about getting current needs today. Like we can't be going based on satisfaction surveys that were done a year ago or months ago, or assuming that we know what the actual issues are today. So I think real-time sentiment is really important to be able to get feedback today and be able to act on that feedback, within the next few days or at least the next few weeks. That was a big shift, I think, for a lot of HR professionals. A lot of us are used to doing either annual or maybe biannual or maybe even quarterly surveys. But let's face it, the problems that some of our employees are impacted by today maybe didn't exist months ago. And so we have to be responsive real time to the needs that are happening right now on the ground. And that's one thing that Teleperformance has invested a lot in is real-time sentiment, getting feedback every single day from a big percentage of our employees. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out survey or anything, but it needs to get some high-level things on what are the issues that are impacting you today, and what can we as an organization do to fix it. And then I also really believe that cross-functional leadership from HR is so critical, because sometimes we only focus on the things that we can control. And that's a critical failure if we're not looking at all the other aspects. For example, how can we influence our finance teams to make sure that the payroll is credited early? Or how can we impact our transportation teams if we have fleet that help get people to and from the office? Or, some maybe non-core HR functions, but functions that have an impact on our employees. So I think Shao mentioned that earlier, which I think was really important, that we're looking at health and safety physically on site. Many of our employees also can't do their jobs remotely. And so oftentimes an HR job can be done remotely. A lot of aspects of it is. And so sometimes that mindset creeps into our solutions. We tend to, whether we mean to or not, kind of think of all of our employees as knowledge workers. Well, not all are. Some of them have physical jobs that need to be able to be physically present. And that means our solutions need to be adapted to those situations. So stay really close to the employee sentiment, even real-time sentiment, I think is really important. And then implement some of the amazing interventions that Nanette and Shao have mentioned. I really don't have others to add because they were so good.
Awesome. I like the whole real-time sentiment. That's very important. Again, even with surveys, right? Sometimes I've had experience wherein when you fill out a survey, it seemed like it's the same set of questions 6 months ago. Now, even the questions need to evolve, and And yeah, again, surveys are good, but if it becomes like a chore, then it defeats the purpose of getting what the right information is needed from the employees, right? So yeah, no, thanks for that, Jeffrey. Now I wanted to ask this to Mr. Net. This is kind of similar, or it's kind of an extension of the question I asked Sharon first a while ago, and it's with regards to the threat of the great resignation, right? So it's increasingly becoming a reality. I think it's hit Asia maybe a few weeks or a few months ago, and sometimes, particularly for some of the segments within our employee base, it's not really anymore about the pay packages. I remember I'm in a sales role before, when some of my top performers would resign, I'd ask a few questions, but then I would go, ano bang offer sa'yo nung kabila, di ba? And then I try to match that. But now it's become so contextual. It's not just the money at all, right? So um, in your company, Miss Nanette, is there I just wanted to find out how you holistically maybe tackle this great resignation threat, and if that's something that you can share, that'd be good.
Okay. Okay, it's probably how to tackle might be, it's more of a prevention, right? Probably
Yeah,
I'll
of course.
position it that way because, yeah. But allow me to just share. The United Laboratory Group did our org climate survey because it's time. We do it every 2 years as well, and we do it last year. And you'll be surprised. The scores that we got is the highest compared to previous years. It has been like we were sort of, because, given the challenges, and so forth, and how sometimes they're honest with the business as well. But we were just so surprised when we talk about leadership, we talk about engagement, employees have scored very high, probably also because of the culture of the group, right? That husay and malasakit, how the company has been taking care of the employees. But anticipating, because I mean, it's a reality, right? The great resignation, and considering also the movement in the market. And if ever there is probably a function that is now really driving that e-com business, an example, right? The e-com talents now, you would see them like, even if because it's either companies have been hiring e-com, they want to get the e-com talents. So that means you pirate from this company to this, and their movement is just so fast. But I think what is very important, we have to think of new ways really to attract and retain talents. I think that's a fact, right? In terms of understanding, like, employees now are looking at how, for a remote or hybrid work arrangement, or at least a work flexibility, but we need to balance this as well, that with the business needs to focus on, I would say, a more adaptive mobility with productivity. Because work from home is not an existing policy of the company. I mean, in general, the total organization, because we also have our manufacturing organization, right? So we have to be fair. They've been there, even with the pandemic. They've been similar to Shao. They've been there, and at some point they have not been going home, But of course, they provided everything that they need in the plant. But just imagine the malasakit of also our people in the plant, right? So that for us who are office-based and so forth, we also have to make sure that we understand, basically, right? It's that purpose, it's how our employees are connecting to the purpose of the organization. And that would allow our employees really to be more engaged at every level by helping them to connect to the greater good, understanding the vision behind the work. In short, sort of like the organization should review every lever available for building, I would say, engagement, at the same time strengthening relationships with individual talent. That talent engagement is very important, and may be about the needs, of the employees, may be about the work, our ways of working, in totality, that package. But also important is, I know I touched on this briefly earlier, is on the learning and development. It's really continuously building the confidence in their ability to achieve their objectives in an organization. It's not, because if you look at a career, it's more of your deliverable as an employee. It's not your manager who's going to drive it. It's the employee. That has been a principle in our organization. It's the employee who will drive their careers, you know. And what we have done is more of us integrating those career conversations in our performance management. You know, they have those career conversations. You know, that's why employees will drive their development, but at the same time, the managers are expected to provide the support to the employees for them to be able really to have that freedom and flexibility to learn new skills, as well as they'll know more or less about how to further build their capabilities as employees of the organization. And another thing that is very important also is the learning agility of the organization, which should be a key attribute of the employees as well as the managers, right? We need them to be open to changes, open to sort of like being adaptable, willing to take risks, flexible, and so forth. That's why our managers, they're really very critical in this challenging times on how they should be able to effectively coach our employees. You know, it could be through their coaching also, and both through training and even the work projects in terms of what they've been assigning to our employees. So overall, we need to be agile. I think
Yes.
that's the thing. We need to be agile to transform the system. Okay, not to fix. I think that's the thing. Not to fix a broken system. Not to try to fix a broken system. You know, that's why we have to make sure that we anticipate what are the needs of the organization. But again, there's no one size fits all, I would say, model to follow. You know, what is very important, really the best approach is to ensure that, you know, our initiatives are aligned to our company culture, aligned to our strategy, aligned to our value creation model. It is time really for our leaders to get real. You know, for our leaders to be resilient, spend more time on coaching and recognition. And as HR practitioners, as HR leaders of organization, the coaching of leaders is a very important capability that we need to further develop. You know, it is when our leaders are able really to work and engage our employees, we're going to have, I would say, an easier work in HR, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's our leaders who are really at the forefront, who are driving a lot of these things. Yeah. These are just some
Thank you,
my
Ms. Jeanette.
thoughts, you know, as to how we could probably tackle, the situation.
Thank you, Ms. Jeanette. I really like that you said about the whole coaching piece. You know, I for one, you know, the managers that have really become a coach to me are the ones that have become my lifelong friends, right? So, you know, the whole coaching piece, you know, I for one in the company, I've started like a mentoring session. I mentor a few of our, you know, younger generation every fortnight, just to ask them, you know, what skills you need so that you can step up into a more senior role. So no, that's great. I really like the whole coaching piece. How about from your end, Shao, in terms of tackling or, you know, preventing the great resignation phenomenon, if we can call it a phenomenon? Any steps that that you're taking in Mega Global that you can share with the folks?
Yeah, it's quite funny. Probably HR people are now wondering, bakit nagre-resign ng mga tao? It's the pandemic, di ba? I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't people want, you know, a more sustainable income, guaranteed income? Why are they resigning? Why are they taking that risk, you know, of being unemployed? And it's the pandemic. I remember when I joined Mega, one of the first things that I asked is data on their exit interview. The exit interview for me says a lot about why people leave, why people stay. And part of the exit interview questionnaire also asks the separating employee what other things should we improve on. And all of this information have helped us you know, formulate a policy and strategy on how to better understand attrition and what do you call this, retention for Mega. So to prevent the great resignation, I don't think you can prevent really anything. If this is a phenomenon already, this is a wave that we just have to ride through and make sure that it impacts us as minimal as possible. But what we're trying to do right now to make sure that we retain talent and get the best talents that are culturally fit for Mega, I'd like to emphasize that that's very important because, Juan, so I interview a lot of high level, really brilliant people. But if they're not culture fit for Mega, there's really no sense hiring them, right? I mean, it would just be a complete waste of time if we hire somebody that's not really culture fit. That's why some of the interviews, especially for senior management, go through me first before the department head. So we had to reevaluate, our current business model and work orientation. That was very, very important, for us to ensure that, as Jeffrey said, we are able to respond, to the needs of our employees on real time. Okay, real time. We had to make sure that we establish a culture of individualized work conditions. People know based on their KPI if they are individual contributors or team contributors. We had to make sure that we were very consultative in revising the KPIs of everybody. That was very, very important to us because if you notice at the beginning of this webinar, I already mentioned measures of performance, which was which is really one of the significant things that we look for in HR. So to ensure that it was on a more consultative way, we had to go down, we had to go to the employees, down to the grassroots, even our fishermen, to ensure that we have that's the correct KPIs for them. So this is what is expected of you. This is the minimal expectation. How are you doing? We had to let everybody understand that, so that when we do performance evaluations, okay, which is a very critical component of retaining, your talents or letting them go, it is done on a level where everybody is on the same page. You can't expect somebody to do a KPI that he does not understand. One of the common misnomers of HR is to give a KPI and then expect somebody to just follow that. Without proper orientation and explanation and understanding of what their role is and why they're sitting on their chairs, you can't really have, a formulation of a KPI that will work for the employee. And that was very important for us. Again, we had to go back and make sure we had to go back and revise. We revised 3 times, version 69, already 67, okay, the KPIs of everybody just to adapt to these changing times. And thankfully, it has helped. It has helped Mega Global in retention and attrition. Based on data that we have, the average number of years that a Mega employee stays is 7 to 8 years. So we must be doing something good. Just last year, because we have laot personnel as well, we have sea-based personnel, we awarded one of the employees whom we awarded service awards was for a 42nd year of loyal service.
That's incredible.
So as I said, these are data that are very helpful to HR to ensure that we continue what we're doing best and, revise what it is that we need to improve on.
Wow, that's great. I was only 4 years old when that employee joined Mega Global. So
yes,
it's incredible. I'm exposing my age right now. But yeah, that's very, very, very creative. Again, my takeaway is really just focusing on the people. Like what Miss Nanette and Shao focus on prevention rather than finding out why they're resigning, right? Like putting in ways there to prevent people from leaving. And which takes me to Jeffrey. I think, Jeffrey, I've heard that you've seen Teleperformance, you've seen some of the lowest attrition rates this year, and has seen a spike in all your employee engagement metrics. So, I just wanted to find out if you can please share what are some of the engagement initiatives that are helping you retain and engage talent in Teleperformance.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably that has morphed over time as the pandemic continued going on. At first, one of the things that was really important for us was protecting jobs, because there were a bunch of people that may have been disrupted. You know, for example, in our organization, we support all industries of the world. So some industries have boomed, like let's say technology companies, and some industries have contracted, like travel companies. And so, you know, you can be impacted during that time, and you may have hundreds, if not thousands of employees, which may be disrupted. So one of the first things we did is go out there and commit that we were going to protect jobs. And to protect jobs, we also needed to step up our business development. So we had to get new clients to support those industries that were contracting. And that's not easy when you can't even have your client visit your country. So, you know, we haven't had a client step foot in one of our facilities, a foreign visitor from many of our clients, in almost 2 years. Can you imagine trusting a company to be able to move thousands of jobs to your organization without even seeing where those people will work, without even been able to meet the individuals who've been managing your business, millions of dollars of a contract? So it requires a lot of trust, a lot of effort. And I think us in HR play a critical role when it comes to business development, because, you know, especially in an industry like ours, people are buying talent. And forgive me for the word buying, but they're really buying the talent that we can provide. And so we play such a huge role in making sure that those jobs are safe. And then the other thing that I think was really important, and I think Nanette talked about this, which I thought was very perceptive. People still want to grow. They want to see their growth paths. They want to see what the development options are for them. And I think HR and OD in general has been so tied up with pandemic response that some of these previously seen as nice to have initiatives like growth, like mentoring and things like that may have been put on the back burner. And so we have to move that right back up to where it needs to be at, because if not, then those people will be part of that resignation. I mean, at the end of the day, they want to see that growth still. And that was something really important for us at Teleperformance. I'm really proud that during the pandemic, you know, our organization added almost 10,000 employees in the Philippines alone. And so it's a testament to, of course, the power of a positive approach to growth, and also making sure that all employees are aligned to your vision. When those two things are together, you're really able to really deliver. And of course, none of that's possible without the amazing talent of the organization.
That's great. Thanks again for sharing that, Jeffrey. So, Gemma, I think you know, I still have like a ton of questions to ask, but unfortunately, I think I'm losing time to ask those questions. So Gemma, would you suggest us to go through some of the Q&A just to get through, because we still have hundreds and hundreds of participants, and I could see my notifications piling up. So maybe if you could just guide through us with some of the questions from the audience, that'll be fantastic.
Yes. It's definitely worthwhile to really listen to all of you. I'm enjoying myself, you know, just learning from your experiences, the best practices that you've shared. But yes, we still have questions, and I will be selecting them for you. And I've chosen the first one. I think this is very interesting. This is from Charissa Marie Librando. Given that the hybrid setup in a company depends on the need and appropriateness of the business, there are instances that some of the employees are resistant to now go back to work and reporting physically at work. So how do you address it? Maybe we can, you know, start with Shao, and then, you know, every one of you could kind of share briefly how you address that.
Well, I'm guilty of that after after a couple of months of being home. You know, just before we started this, I told my EA, okay, what am I supposed to wear? I'm not used to dressing up anymore. Juancho, remember we were talking about you buying sneakers instead of, you know, leather shoes, and, you know, changing your wardrobe and all of that. I guess we have borrowing from Mel Sarmiento, excuse me, Secretary, a bubble fatigue now. Okay, so how do we address that in Mega? It's probably as simple as you make it enticing going back to the office. And how do you make it more enticing? We really make them look forward to going back. Oh, see, you're going to, see Rachel and Anne and have the opportunity again, to talk to Pancho and Jeffrey and stuff like that. Because of the surveys that we do, again, this is very important. On a very frequent basis, we understand what it is that they need. And right now in Mega, what it is that they need is not really going back to work. They want to feel safe. That's why we did antigen tests as frequently as we can to make them feel secure. Only then can we entice them to go back, because we have the numbers to show them, hey, look, based on the antigen tests, out of 100 people, only 2 tested positive already. So you really can't entice people to go back if you don't have the data backing up, your enticement to say it's safe to go back. Because it's not really now a question of I want to go back because I miss this colleague and I want to see my computer again and I've left my plant there and I'm a plantita and nobody's watering it. It's really about, is it safe for me to go back to the office? Because when I go there, I risk myself going out and the contagion and going back to my baby who's only 6 months old at home.
Agree. It's really directly going to the point of concern of the employees.
Yes.
Yes.
And one more thing, sorry. One more thing. It has changed the landscape also for our older, sorry to use this word, more mature employees, because we have to take care of them and have to focus on them more than the millennials. The millennials kasi, because they're still at the peak of their health, if they test positive in antigen, okay, so not to say naman that we're not taking care of them, no? But if it's somebody from senior management and he's already, let's say, 55 years old, it's something that I put on my radar on a daily basis. How is Mr. Ganyan? Has he already taken his PCR test? Okay, what kind of, because the HMO benefit is different for every employee as well, based on their tiering, right? So we've enforced enticing going back to the office to our employees by making sure that we have tied up with an HMO that also responds to our needs. Okay, so yeah, that's one thing. Sorry.
Thank you, Shao. I think that's very enlightening, especially from the kind of industry that you're in. Okay, let's have next JJ and then Naneth, and then Juancho, you can also share your answer to this question.
I'm happy I'm not
real...
that JJ that you were referring to. It's
yes.
Jeffrey. So
I forgot.
Jeffrey. That's okay, no problem.
Yeah, two JJs on one webinar. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, from our perspective, we have so many jobs available that we no longer really look at this as needing to get some people back into the office. If you're in a job that cannot be done remotely, then what we're doing now is retraining so that you can be in a job that's remote. And then for those people who really physically like to work with other people physically, or in a type of profession that needs them to be physically present, there's plenty of jobs for that too. So our approach on this has been, we've formally said that, we will be in a hybrid or remote work environment forever. And so there will be some jobs that will be hybrid or remote forever. And that was not the case pre-pandemic. I mean, almost all of our jobs were done physically on site, and we had a handful of people. And today, we have a good 40 to 60%, depending on the department, which are working either remotely or hybrid. And so by now, I'm reminding everybody, if you're in a job where you're not comfortable remote, then we need to get you moved to a job that is on site, and vice versa. If you're in a job where you're on site and you want to be remote, then we move you around, right? By now, we need to make those adjustments.
Thank you, Jeffrey. How about you, Nanette?
Well, to what Shao mentioned, right? It's also how we prepare the workplace. And the preparedness is beyond the physical office, even the connection to the employees. Because we do have a regular wellness tracker, that we've been running 2 years, just to see how they are, both from a mental, emotional, and even their physical state, right? And we do conduct regular town halls with even with those Mentimeters, and people have been very direct about questions. Why do I need to go back and all of these things. But what we've done is really for them to understand, that it's back up, if I may. It's also back up by data, on what's happening around, and what's been the number of cases and so forth, and what is that support that we're extending as well, both from an office, because we have to reconfigure the office. We have to make sure that it's in compliance with the IATF, like the space, all of this needed, I would say UV, all of this we've actually spend, from our budget, for us to be able to prepare the workplace, right? And at the same time, even the health support in case, so we provided all of these things and the regular communication to the employees. We've experienced some, I would say, the fear or some feeling of anxiety from the employees. But we've likewise again partnered with our leaders, with our department heads, for them to talk to our employees and really understand where is their fear coming, and for us to, to address what would that be, So we've been able to provide those support, both physically in the office as well as those emotional support that they need.
All right. Thank you. So far, I've just summarized before we have one to also answer this question. So go straight to directly their concern. What's their concern? You address that. Upskilling, reskilling. Equipping them with what they need. And then what Miss Nanit mentioned a while ago also is very much pointing to the same points. Okay. How about you, Wancho? Is there anything you'd like to
Yeah,
add to
absolutely.
answer this?
The great insights. Obviously, I think these Nanette, Jeff, JJ, and Shao are all HR practitioners. I think I'm the less experienced one here, but from my perspective, I've learned that the manager's got a very big role, right? Manager is an HR. Being able to really get to the pulse of your people. I'm quite lucky. I work for a tech company, so we're very flexible in our work arrangements. I'm based in Singapore. I cover Asia Pacific. I'm now currently with family here in Australia, so we can pretty much work anywhere we like. But obviously, I'm a social individual. I do encourage us meeting once in a while, face to face, where I'm based in Singapore, and I encourage this to each of the countries that we represent. Obviously, from a data standpoint and a safety standpoint, you do need to prove that you're safe, either to an ART or you don't really have any symptoms. But again, at the end of the day, we do hold a lot of town halls as well. Fortnightly town halls, monthly town halls. I speak to my people almost on a daily basis. Hopefully, they're not getting sick of me checking in on them. But again, it really boils down to the manager being able to put a policy to what the employee needs, and being readily available when it's needed. Obviously, within the realms of being safe from getting impacted by
Yeah.
the disease, right?
Priority and the safety. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I forgot to mention. So Miss
yeah,
Miss Nanette, yes, also mentioned that partnership with the leaders. I think that's also very very important.
yeah, absolutely.
There. One question. You got a lot of answers, a lot of insights already. I know we have limited time for this Q&A portion, but I'd like to squeeze in just one more.
Sure.
And Sean mentioned this earlier, about generational differences. This one is from an anonymous attendee. How do you adjust to generational differences when it comes to digitalization, which is, part of remote, hybrid setup? What strategies, and maybe based on your experience, differences in the reception, readiness with technological intervention? So I'll allow you to, like, if there's a quick, insight or experience that you'd like to share, would like to start.
I guess I'll go first.
Go ahead.
We're lucky enough to have a CEO and a president who's 71 years old and very tech savvy. He spends most of his time looking through, YouTube videos because he's an engineer. So we have our own shipyard, and he spends a lot of his time watching YouTube video tutorials and shares this to the group. No, I guess when leaders walk their talk, it's very easy to have everybody follow. So if we have our CEO do what it is that he needs to do to adapt to the changing times and be automated and digital, I guess the board of directors, even the executive committee, will have to follow, right? So again, it also boils down to basic core value that we inculcate again as an organization. If the skill set, okay, is lacking to respond to whatever is necessary, the leader should take it upon himself to learn. And I take it from Ms. Nanit when she said continuous learning is always very, very important. Even as basic as, learning Excel for, a 56-year-old salesman who's not done Excel all his life. But this is what is necessary now to make sure that the reports are done and submitted on time so that, the MBR meetings are updated and we have an informed choice on how to decide on certain things. Okay? Because it would be a very glaring difference when everybody has already done what it is that they need to do, and you're still at the back of the bus determining how it is, figuring out how to log on to your computer, right? So I guess in Mega we have a very strong sense really of what do I need to do to improve. That's one of the things that we want to inculcate to people. OD is there to help you. We have a lot of training materials, but then again, it's not just the job of HR to determine training needs analysis or learning capability and all of that. You have to come forward, raise your hand and say, hey, I need this training. Can you help me please? Because my KPI says I need to be adept at this type of skill so that I can meet this KPI. If you don't train me, then I'm going to put it on you because you're asking me to do this, but I'm not equipped to do it. So now I'm raising my hand. I'm shouting at the top of my lungs saying, give this training to me. I need help. So please come and help me. Okay. So I guess that's it. Goes with the generation gap. And one other thing, it's in Mega, the older ones actually get to teach the younger ones and vice versa. Okay, when it comes to digitalization and automation, but more so, there's a training, there's a program that we want to implement. We call it the buddy system. Okay, the old one partners with the younger ones, so that there's exchange of learning and ideas, and we're currently crafting this type of engagement, whether online or physical. But then again, the older ones don't want to go to the office yet. Okay, so we're doing this on an e-platform scale, so that we'll see how it goes. But I think we're all very excited. Imagine a 55-year-old working with a 23-year-old, right? Okay, so that's it.
I like that. So to sum it up, it's the leaders who need to initiate it. You walk the talk, and there needs to be an innate, willingness for employees to also improve. Correct? Jeffrey, would you like to add anything to that?
Just don't underestimate that even different generations can navigate technology really well. They just need to be shown how to do it. So make sure that your end user acceptance, also includes a diverse group of people. Don't have your IT team checking to see whether or not your new app works well for the organization. So get a group of people together, including a mix of diverse individuals to make sure it works well. And then I think it's also really important that, for example, when my parents are elderly and they're in their 70s, but they're able to use some amazing technology every single day. And I think Shao mentions her president is also able to do those. So I think it's really more about just education and also having a really good tool too. Don't make people go to 5 or 6 different links or different ways to log in or different things that they have to click. different platforms to use. So make it simple and fast, and then I think you won't have too much of a problem regardless of the age of the person using it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
guess it's having a good mix, having good tools,
Yeah.
opportunities to learn that are simple. If I got everything correct. Anything to add, Miss Annette?
Yeah. I think we were fortunate that we embarked on a digital transformation project prior to the pandemic. The challenge that we have when we were in the pandemic already was how to speed up, because it's the digital business engineering team who have to make sure that, really put focus on the digital transformation. But interesting enough on how we were able to involve not really the, no, not the senior folks, right? But their involvement in the project in itself at the onset. They've been part of it, because we talk about process, we talk about people who owns the process and so forth. So some of them have been owners of the process, or so they would been involved in the project of the digital transformation project that we have. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Yeah.
involve them at the starting
Yeah.
point. Correct. Juancho, anything else that you
I
like to
think, yeah, thanks, Shem. I think in my end, it boils down to really being open-minded and humble about technology, right? I'm blessed to have started early in my personal life. I have soon 21 and soon 15-year-old, both boys, very very vocal about what they want in life, and I really learned a lot from them. And they simplify things for me, and I'm also very lucky to have a 75-year-old mom who's quite tech savvy, like the CEO of Mega Global. And I do work for a tech company, but I'm not very techy, sadly. But it's having the open mind that, hey, this younger generation, you will learn really a lot from them. I reported to a younger person before at Salesforce. One of the co-founders in darwinbox whom I report to is younger than I am, and having that peace of mind that, hey, whatever the age of that individual, as long as I can teach something to that individual, and as long as I can learn from that, then I'm happy with that.
Thank you for those additional points, Juancho. I think that it's very clear, a lot of it, regardless of the generation, a lot of people are really very open now, and they're very willing to learn, and they're actually very quick to learn, the technology that we're using. All right, so we are on a little bit of an overtime, and I know there are still a lot of questions. So I would like to ask from each of you, maybe just to, closing statement regarding our topic, remote to hybrid, the talent management strategies, that you can share. If there's like one key takeaway from you that you want the audience to get, what would that be? Let's go with the same cycle again. We'll start with Shao.
There's no better time for employers to let their employees feel that they are part of the organization than now. The tenacity of an organization is usually tested by things like this. And we can only wave through it if we face it as one family, as one team. In Mega, we call our organization one Mega family. The inclusion of the idea of being part of a basic social group, okay, such as family, is very, very important because it already encompasses a lot. Connection, engagement, relationship, okay? All of these things are encompassed by the word family when we use them. And we have to make sure that leaders humanize this type of leadership role when they engage and reach out to employees. One of the things that I'm very, very proud and happy about our executive committee in Mega is really they embody what it is that they say and they walk their talk. I guess that's very, very important. At a time like this, when it's very uncertain and people do not know what is happening, what's going to happen in society, a very clear leadership direction from the head is very important, cascaded down to the grassroots, and not just cascaded, but understood by everybody, so that in our very, very big bus, where we want to hire the right people and put them on the right seat, nothing goes awry. Okay? Because when things go south, it only means that there's not there's not enough communication going around. There's no feedbacking that's happening. That's why people are disengaged and discombobulated. Okay, so a very clear cascade on what it is that organizations want to do from the leadership helm is very, very important. Okay, I saw one of the questions, what are the benefits that you give to somebody who tested COVID, who tested positive for COVID, as basic, as basic as these things, because you see, these are what people need now. So if leadership is clear on what it is that it wants to do on a critical time like this, it will reflect on policy, it will reflect on procedure, whether it's streamlined, okay, or extended. It will reflect on a lot of things, okay. And again, as I said, there's no better time for employers to let their employees feel that they are taken care of than now. So I guess that's the key takeaway. And HR will be at the helm of all of this, at the center of all of this. No, we're at the middle, we're in the eye of the storm, because the way HR will handle this again will come from the direct instruction and cascade of leadership. So you can't have a headless chicken roaming around and just doing this. Okay, we have a COVID pack, give it there, give it there, give it there. But what is really the end goal of why we're doing all of this is very, very important as well. So whether or not there's generational gap in your organization, or you have everybody working from home and they're already bubble fatigue and all of that, it will reflect really on the leadership cascade of what it is that they want to happen in the organization. And in Mega, we're very proud to say, and we're very happy to say, it's very clear what it is that management wants to do, how we want to respond to these times, how we want to make sure that there's business continuity, given that our mission is to ensure we provide, okay, quality food and nutrition to each and every Filipino family. It's written all over our workplace, even in our ID, so that we don't forget the existence of why Mega is continuously running and operating. So I guess that's
I
it.
like that very much. Can I just say that, I think it shows the emphasis on the values, and then the drive from the leadership from the top, and then the details would follow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shao. Jeffrey, how about you?
I would just say, remember to stay positive. Our organizations need us to be a guiding light of positivity. And remember that people are going through a lot of really difficult times. And while it's good to be resilient, it's really good that organizations can grow and prosper and continue to do really well, like it sounds like all of our organizations have done. Don't lose sight from the fact that people are also going through a lot, and when we stay positive, when we try to be there for our employees, that helps really drive that culture, that value, that we really care about people, not just about our organizations growing and prospering, but we really care about the individuals. I always try to set aside some time to have an actual heart-to-heart conversation with at least a few people every single week. Not necessarily a focus group or a session like this, but really something where people can open up, normally one-on-one or just a few people. And I think that's where you'll hear what people are really going through. And I think that helps you as an HR lead be able to craft policies and build a culture within your organization that's connected to what's really going on with people. Because what we see on social media, even sometimes what we see in sentiment surveys, those are like higher level things. There's also something else going on with the workforce that we have to be really connected to. And I think if we're honest, even with ourselves, we've probably also been through a lot. Emotionally, and it's important that we connect to that and we understand how can our organization help respond to that. So, and I think sessions like this help us bring that forward and also get the conversation going. And congratulations to pmap for organizing this, and thank you so much to darwinbox for sponsoring it.
Thank you, Jeff. That was very good. Optimism, caring for individuals, for people. Thank you. Ms. Annette.
Yeah. Okay, from our end, our commitment to talent and culture didn't change. We continue to put focus on that commitment to the organization, you know. But one thing that we're actually doing now is how we are able to power through, you know, to effectively respond with focus, you know, for us to be able to recover and renew, you know, for us to be able to enable the future of work. But the talent and org centricity is there, you know, really understanding the needs of the organization, you know. And if you look at 2020 and 2021, I would say the theme is disruption. You know, there's so much disruption that has been happening, you know, but we as an organization, we really need to revisit our plans, you know, because not because we have to, you know, but we have, or sort of like we wanted to, but we have to, right? Given the challenges. So this 2022, I know I'm sure you are with me when we say, oh, 2022, we're seeing the light, right? It was a good start, right? Like December, we were celebrating 2022. What it was, like boom, come first week, you know. And there's a need for us to have that impromptu reinvention, and it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. We will have to reinvent, you know, how that would look like, and we need to thrive. You know, we need to thrive, not just survive in this years or months, you know. And we're hopeful, right? But we need to respond to the challenges, you know, to the changes with agility, as well as, you know, the changes is happening in our organization, as well as to our talent management. So I know HR is it's us, like, you know, our roles as HR. We are at the center stage in the middle of this pandemic. But you have as well I'm sure your support system from your leadership or even from your HR community. So we can do this together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nanette. Commitment to talent and culture, and you emphasize the effective needs to be effective. The strategies that we put in. Thank you so much. Juancho.
Thank you, Gemma. So for me, you know, I think maybe 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, I've learned to simplify running a sales organization from a great leader that I once reported it to. And he taught me the 4 Ps, right? And it's, you know, people, pipeline, process, and performance. And he told me, if you keep badgering your people to sell the numbers, it's not going to happen, right? If you keep focusing on performance, on forecast calls and whatnot, forget about it. You need to be very basic and to a certain degree love your people with great consistency and with great, you know, to be genuine about it. And I think that's what the pandemic has taught us. You know, people is the greatest resource, and if we keep on investing in our people, like, you know, all the tips that we got from Nanette, Sheffy, and Shao about training them, listening to them, being sensitive to their needs, then I'm pretty sure the pipeline will come, the processes will be more efficient, and performance would be at an all-time high. So again, thanks pmap, and thanks to Shao, Jeffrey, Nanette, and Gemma for having me here. It's a great conversation. I'd love to do this again at some point. Hopefully face to face.
Truly agree.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I really just feel that the time is very short. I wish that we have more time because, you know, we're really learning a lot from each other, and I think we're sharing a lot to the audience right now. However, we are already on overtime. So I guess my last task is to, you know, very challenging to wrap up everything. How do I wrap this up? I think well, first of all, thank you so much to our panelists, to Juancho as our moderator. We really learned a lot from this. It's a great first webinar for pmap and darwinbox. I think it's pretty clear, and Ms. Nanette mentioned this earlier, that there's no one size fits all strategy in addressing the challenges of today. We belong to different industries, our processes vary, and the need for a remote or hybrid setup is really dependent on various factors. However, I think from our panel discussion this afternoon, there's a highlight on flexibility, empathy, responsiveness for the present situation, at the same time anticipating situations we need to plan for. And our panelists mentioned it, you know, all eyes are on us as HR, as people managers, you know. There's really a lot of pressure, and I think it's just great that we realize, you know, we're also contributing a lot to the success of organizations, of businesses today. At the end of the day, I think we need to realize that we emphasize that people need to come first. Richard Bronson said, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. And I think that's just the best way to summarize all of that. So thank you again very much. We thank you all for your active participation and involvement. And we hope that this session was helpful. Again, my name is Gemma. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
very
Lat.
much.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Okay, Lat. Bye.
Shop, commuting, or communicating. The technology we access in our daily lives is advancing rapidly to deliver a flawless experience on mobile. Unfortunately, enterprise technology has not scaled fast enough to match this ease. So why not make life simple, even at work? darwinbox is an HCM platform for user adoption that is highly appealing, intuitive, and mobile friendly. With our mobile application, now get work done even on the fly. Start your day by sharing how you feel at work. Let there be no one waiting for you to approve their requests till you reach office. Let a single tap clear all your tasks and requests. Get the simplest of your worries sorted with daily clock-ins and leave applications on mobile. Stepping out of office for work? Just mark your attendance by sharing your location. Just scan your bills to claim your expense on mobile. Isn't that as easy as it can be? Job interview or project meeting, feedback is as good as it is quick. With mobile, now share feedback real time. But that's not all. We take it a step further by removing touch and type. Now get it all done by just speaking to a brand new voice bot, Darwin. Hey Darwin, give feedback to Jayant. Do more, be more with darwinbox on mobile. Be it for shopping, commuting, or communicating, the technology we access in our daily lives is advancing rapidly to deliver a flawless experience on mobile. Unfortunately, enterprise technology has not scaled fast enough to match this ease. So why not make life simple, even at work? darwinbox is an HCM platform built for user adoption that is highly appealing, intuitive, and mobile friendly. With our mobile application, now get work done even on the fly. Start your day by sharing how you feel at work. Let there be no one waiting for you to approve their requests till you reach office. Let a single tap clear all your tasks and requests. Get the simplest of your worries sorted with daily clock-ins and leave applications on mobile. Stepping out of office for work? Just mark your attendance by sharing your location. Just scan your bills to claim your expense on mobile. Isn't that as easy as it can be? Job interview or project meeting, feedback is as good as it is quick. With mobile, now share feedback real time. But that's not all. We take it a step further by removing touch and type. Now get it all done by just speaking to our brand new voice bot, Darwin. Hey Darwin, give feedback to Jayant. Do more, be more with darwinbox on mobile.